Ahoy! Today we have some very interesting information about changes to the Blunderbuss, some potential changes to housing, to PvP rewards, and also maybe Elemental Aversion. So let's dive into these because there are quite a few of them. The first one is a request for a nerf to the Blunderbuss, saying nerf Blunderbuss or every melee will leave. Maybe a bit of an overstatement here, but the response from Zinramu a few days ago was, we tend to agree that with all the other changes introduced on the PTR and how the Blunderbuss was untouched, it was a bit too strong in some aspects. Because of that, we're going to make some changes after the Season 1 launch. Fix a bug on claw shot cancel windows that was allowing some combos we didn't want. It would be nice if they were a bit more specific about which combos they didn't want here, so this is kind of up in the air. Reduced the stamina damage on the Aethos Shrapnel Blast. This is actually huge because the current stamina damage on that ability is absolutely insane. This may be due to a report that I sent through someone because this was ridiculous. You could actually just go through a heavy tank's shield with a well-aimed Aethos Blast, pretty much. It also reduced the consecutive pellet damage for the Aethos Shrapnel Blast, so if you fully hit this, it will deal less damage, apparently. We don't have the absolute numbers yet, those will hopefully come in the next few days, but these are the changes for now. They say we also be keeping an eye on the Blunderbuss after release and make sure these changes are sufficient. So I'm really hoping that they're doing like a rebalance patch that follows after the Season 1 patch, before the Season 2 patch, where something like this would be looked at further. Now, the response to these suggested changes was not exactly positive, and honestly that's not really surprising because that's a very low number of changes for a weapon that's likely going to be very present in the upcoming meta. So yeah, people were not happy. So Zinramu made another response. They said, "Hey all, love the passionate conversation on BB. A lot of varied opinions here, so I want to give a little more detail and context on our thinking. We don't think the Blunderbuss is very overtuned or in need of major changes. We are mostly concerned with its burst damage in extreme scenarios. The weapon is designed to be bursty, and we have no desire to change that. But with the damage mitigation changes, we want to ensure its one-shot potential isn't too strong. The changes we are planning for Season 1 release are really targeting that and some extreme combos." I gotta say, I don't know if they have the right feel for the potential of the Blunderbuss here, because the problem with having a burst-heavy weapon in a meta that favors burst is that it's automatically better than other weapons that burst less, even if in a scenario where the meta itself didn't favor burst, it would maybe be more balanced. This is, for example, something that you could also see with the Greatsword. The Greatsword is extremely burst-heavy as well, and in a meta where burst is very strong, it felt very, very strong. The Greatsword will likely feel significantly less strong after this patch because the burst has been taken down quite a fair bit, so that'll probably fall out of favor, but the Blunderbuss doesn't get the same treatment here, and all of the other melee weapons are kind of getting taken down a notch, especially in regards to their burst, because what is mostly nerfed on them is the ability damage. And that makes things kind of complicated, because it's not so much that the Blunderbuss is getting that much stronger, even though maybe in some situations it is, because Fortify is not as strong, but that everything else is getting weaker around it, and it was already good in those situations. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of have to move away from this opinion on the Blunderbuss in the long run and nerf it a little more, but it's maybe also too early to say. We have to see how the general meta develops after the patch, because there's so many things changing at once. And maybe after that we can talk more about what the direction for the Blunderbuss should or shouldn't be. So we'll leave this up in the air, and I hope that they just would be quick to do a second round of changes if they feel like after the patch, okay, Blunderbuss is actually overperforming now. The next post from Daphne, I quickly want to scroll through first and show you here because it's actually kind of crazy. These are all requests regarding the housing trophies, either raising the number of housing trophies that you can place or making them easier to place. And all of these are replies, like just thanks for your feedback, we forwarded it, but well, as you can see, there are a lot of them and nothing has ever happened. We have now gotten a more official response, I would say, from someone higher up than a community moderator, in the form of Zinramu's reply. They say, "We hear you on the trophy pain and friction. I feel it every week. Unfortunately, there have been other priorities for our UX team which have been preventing us from tackling this already. But we are looking into some non-UX solutions that should help this pain. They won't make it for Season 1, but in the next season or two, we should have a solution which will help remove some friction until we get a permanent solution. So I guess the people that could do this are the ones that are stuck working on the gear set system at the moment. But it's good to hear that they are looking to do something about this, because it is getting pretty out of hand, especially now that we have the new trophies coming in as well with Human Bane. Dave Jones asked for a return of the Brimstone Arena, the visual changes to the Brimstone Arena that had been done right after Brimstone came out. Forum user Legend, I guess, also gave us some examples of that. This is what the arena looked like right after Brimstone came out. You can see it's kind of bluish, yellowish, cyan-ish. And this is what it looks like again now. You can see that it's a lot more dark blue and more red. Chartis responded, "Hi folks, the lighting during the Brimstone Sands patch was the result of a bug with the arena level. We fixed that bug and brought the lighting back to its intended state after the patch. At this time, we don't have plans to revert that change." This is kind of funny because a lot of the people in the thread are really asking for this other color setting to be back, and I honestly prefer the lighter-ish color setting as well. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer, if you actually prefer the version that we got after Brimstone or the unbugged version that they've gone back to. And on the topic of arenas, CT2 asked for a proper 1v1 arena, not just a duel mode. Chartis responded, "If you're seeking to test your metal against a single other player, you can always duel. I can understand the desire for this game mode, but we have other content planned that's higher priority for us than 1v1 arena mode at this time." Coming from another game that has a somewhat neglected 1v1 mode before this, I can understand why they don't want to do this. There are obviously pros to this, being that you can farm your PvP rewards on your own, you don't have to worry about any other people at all. And honestly, that is sometimes much less of a headache. But there are problems that come with that, mainly surrounding you then basically having to balance around that mode somewhat, even if people say you don't have to balance for it, because people that play the mode consistently will eventually say, hey, give us some attention, give us some balance, and then if you balance for 1v1, it's suddenly going to be very difficult to balance for other modes at the same time, so I see why they don't want to do this. Even having a 3v3 mode that already has a different meta from the OPR meta, and then that has a different meta from the War meta, already gives us so many different situations basically that adding more to that makes game balance very difficult. A request by Titio Black is to remove the 25 mutation limit per week. AZ Nips responded, "We currently don't have plans to allow players to run unlimited mutations without rewards as suggested, but appreciate the feedback and the interest in playing more." I think this is understandable just from the perspective that they don't want speedrunners to be able to get too much practice, so that, you know, they kind of have to wait out a little bit or run their smurfs a bit and just have it a bit more spaced out. I think, honestly, 25 mutations a week is fine. It would be cool to have the option to run more than that without rewards, I don't dispute that, but I also see why that's not something they want to do. It's not nearly the time gating that we used to have, or the money gating that we used to have, where you had to pay tons and tons to even get the keys in the first place. So by that standard, it's already a lot better than it used to be. And you know what? After 25 mutations, just go touch grass for a bit. I don't know. But I don't think you really need to do more than that. What I will say is that I hope the same limitation won't be in place for the Sandworm. I'm hoping that this is something that people can practice as much as they want, because it's supposed to be very difficult and very challenging, so you will need a lot of practice, and I don't like those types of things being time-gated, though I know that many other MMOs do gate them in some way as well. But I'd rather have the gate be the difficulty itself, just making it extremely hard to actually finish it, instead of having the gate be through limitations of how many runs you can do. In an older thread about upgrading 590 gears to Legendary, which is kind of done now because we know what is going to be in the next patch in that regard, there was a question about some love for the PvP track award. Zinramu responded, "Great news here, Diwad. Yes, we are planning some pretty big improvements to the PvP reward track. These changes, in combination with Crossworld OPR and some other PvP surprises we have planned for Season 2, should make a great PvP release." So we knew that there are gonna be some changes to the rewards, but it sounds like there's more than that. Maybe this is about the territory thing, maybe they're getting done with that now, we'll see. But either way, I am excited for them actually talking about a PvP release here, so I'm looking forward to that apparently being the focus of the secondary release, or the second season. Forum user Unimpressed went through the files a little bit and found the rewards that you get for different activities in the game. You can see those rewards here, and this is the rewards towards the Season Pass track, so the seasonal XP. And they said that most of these values seem extremely low. Charters responded, those numbers are what we call our passive season XP gain. This passively rewards you with season XP for participating in content within the game. It is not intended to be the primary driver of progression through the pass. That comes from your season journey and season activities, which give meteor progression and significantly more XP. So in practice, your Outpost Rush example would also include the activity card asking you to get a killing blow or participate in Outpost Rush, which can give you a good bit more season XP. The passive XP is just an additional bonus on top of those gains. That said, we are adding in a few additional passive XP vectors with the next PTR update and are looking into additional enhancement on top of those. We'll be looking at data and feedback closely, so it sounds like there will be plenty options to progress in your track, which is great. Bravour complained about the mobs in New World having too many staggers after many staggers were taken away from player abilities. Charters responded saying that there already was a significant pass on how much mobs used to stagger, and it's way less than it used to be already. So yeah, the vision format is that attacks that stagger are well telegraphed with ample time for the player to respond. If there's particular AI that you feel are specifically problematic, feel free to call them out and we can investigate if they're up to our standards. But in the last few patches we have significantly reduced the overall quantity of AI staggers in the game. And ProperSo posted the list from the patch here with all the staggers that have been removed, and it's a lot. The game used to have so much more stagger going on in general that comparatively this is almost nothing now, to be honest. And then there was a bug report from Rube, but who we really have to credit here is Fusion Thunder, because the information is taken straight from his video. I will link that in the description, where he discusses certain perks that, or certain abilities that don't work with Elemental Aversion, are not affected by Elemental Aversion and just deal their normal damage. But in response to this bug report, we got a reply from a community manager thanking them for it and saying they send it to the team. Now the question here is this actually a bug? Elemental Aversion has gone through so many different phases that it's very hard to tell what it's actually meant to do. At the moment, it is generally reducing the damage from most ranged attacks, including abilities and basic attacks, as long as there's some form of projectile, with the weird outlier of Ice Spike for some reason, which doesn't seem to count as a projectile, I guess because it travels through the ground or something. But yeah, you can see down here the things that are listed here are Meteor Shower, Ice Storm, Ice Spike, and there's other attacks too, so Oblivion for example as well. Void Blade doesn't count as a projectile, but that makes sense because it's a melee attack. So yeah, some of them make more sense, others make less sense. Many of them are ticking damage effects where the first tick is reduced but others are not. And it would be good to get some clarity on how exactly they want Elemental Aversion to work, how strong they want it to be, and if they want certain abilities to not be countered by it. So we'll see what the response to that is in the long run. But what I will say for now is that this is definitely a more complex topic than just saying, okay, Elemental Aversion is now not good or is still always best in slot. I want to discuss that further in an upcoming video, probably tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. I'll go into detail about why I think we should probably still get some Elemental Aversion and how exactly you should gear, what you should do with your gems and so on. Later this week we should also hopefully get info on a new small patch for the PTR. And also, I'm hopefully going to be able to finally release my trading tips video. But if you want the trading tips early, you can just support me on Patreon and you can get them right now. That's what I post there. So, thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, and thank you for watching. Duke Sloth, out.